Everybody wants stimulus. And right now, everybody wants stimulus to happen by the end of this year. Mitch McConnell demands stimulus, but he says, I only want to see it at $500 billion or below. Nancy Pelosi, she is urging the Senate to pass stimulus as well, but only if it's going to be for $2.4 trillion or higher. Even the White House has joined in on the conversation, and the Trump administration will support a stimulus package as long as it's targeted and smaller than $2 trillion. However, when the Trump administration is saying smaller than $2 trillion, it's pretty much meaning less than 1.5 and most likely right around 1 or 1.2 trillion dollars. So even though they say less than 2 trillion, it is far less than $2 trillion. So we have our three leaders talking about how they want stimulus, but nobody seems to be willing to get back to the negotiation table and actually negotiate the best possible deal for the American people. And this is what has many Americans very upset and frustrated that they even voted for any of these people to be in Congress anyway. The good news, though, we did hear from the White House, and specifically a White House advisor just the other day, and I want to explain what he said. The White House advisor is actually White House trade advisor Peter Navarro. He was interviewed on Fox News the other day, and he gave us some really good insights as to where the White House stands right now regarding stimulus and the stimulus negotiations. So I want to bring this all to you, break it down so you really understand from all sides what's happening. We talked about Nancy Pelosi, what she's wanted for months. We've talked about Joe Biden just last week. We talked about what Steve Mnuchin said. We've talked about Mitch McConnell. We've talked about Joe Biden. We've talked about Chuck Schumer. We've talked about all these different leaders, all these different advisors, and what they want regards to stimulus. But let's hear from this White House trade advisor and see what he says regarding what the White House truly wants. Now, he mentioned in order to avoid mass chaos, and we will see this. We saw this back in 2008 and 2009. We will see it again. It will happen unless Congress acts on these three main points of legislation. These three main points of legislation are deemed essential. Here are the three. First, we have PPP funding. Many of you are still asking, what is PPP funding? PPP funding simply stands for the Paycheck Protection Program, which essentially means the government is going to give companies, let's say $20,000, $10,000, $250,000 for a company, depending on size and all this stuff. And they can take that money, and as long as they pay for their lease, they pay for business expenses like employees, keep them employed, then that money that they receive can be 100% forgivable. So they never have to pay it back. It's essentially a loan, but it's a forgivable loan as long as they spend the majority of that money on employees, leases, and business-related expenses. So now that we have that covered, I mentioned earlier today, and I mentioned also, I think yesterday and last week as well, that House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy is planning to get Democrats together, get a handful of Democrats together, and get them on board to join Republicans and sign a discharge petition. This would effectively give Republicans the ability to bypass Nancy Pelosi and take a bill to the floor of the House without Nancy Pelosi's approval. They only need 218 votes, or yeses. They need 218 signatures on this to be able to take a vote to the floor, or a bill to the floor for a vote, and then the House will vote on this new bill. And then from there, they need 218 yeses as well in order to get this passed. Then it would be kicked back to the Senate. They could pass as well, and hopefully we'd move forward. Now, this is great. This would provide funding for businesses, small businesses that are currently struggling. The problem, though, is that only passing PPP funding for businesses is only half of the equation, because you spend money and you give money to a business. And that business is like, okay, I got all this money. I'm going to hire back all my employees for this restaurant. Great. and all the employees come back, and they're all standing there waiting for the dinner rush, and two people walk in. Now, you probably think, oh, that's an exaggeration. It's not an exaggeration. This is exactly what happened back when the PPP program first launched back in, April? What happened was businesses hired back, they kept their employees, they didn't send them off, they didn't furlough them, they were still working, but people were not coming in because there were shutdowns. People were not coming in because they didn't have money. This is only one part of the equation. So giving money to businesses is only technically one leg of this three-legged stool. There are three legs, and each leg must do its job to see any success. The second leg of this stool, the second point that Peter Navarro mentioned, is stimulus checks. We have to provide stimulus checks to the American people. Without stimulus checks to the American people, we can prop up these businesses. We can do other things as well. But without stimulus checks, it doesn't create any demand for these people to go into these businesses. You think people want to go into a restaurant and pay $50 for a dinner when they do not have $50 to their name? No. They're going to go to a grocery store, buy Top Ramen and beans and noodles and rice, and they're going to eat that for a week. And they're going to save $45 by just going to a grocery store. So in order to create demand, we have to provide Americans with stimulus checks. This is being seen as the most important part of the entire stimulus package at this point. Stimulus checks. With a $1,200 stimulus check, or possibly even more, and I mentioned this earlier this week as well, is there are people that are supportive and pushing for a $2,000 stimulus check, and even more than that, and possibly even monthly. It's not likely, but they're pushing for it. So, Americans at this point, once they get a $1,200 stimulus check or more, they could actually afford to go into these local establishments, businesses, restaurants, bars, hotels, and spend money because now they have it. So, stimulus checks are important to provide businesses with the funding that they need to remain open long term. Because without stimulus checks, these businesses that receive PPP funding will not be able to stand on their own 2 feet for very long without Congress's help. So right here we have two very important pieces of legislation that alone could slightly prop up the economy and bring it back to where it once was, to its glory days and the pre-pandemic levels. But there is still one leg that is missing that needs to be addressed. That final leg is the extension of unemployment benefits. Now, I'm not just talking about providing additional $300 to possibly $600 per week on top of state benefits. That's great and that is needed. Roughly right now, what experts are saying is we need at least $300 per week. $400 would be great. Anything over that is actually just excessive. So $300 per week is most likely what's going to happen. But in addition to providing an additional $300 per week, the other part is we need to provide an extension of the unemployment benefit for self-employed and gig workers past the end of this year. Because if you remember, the unemployment benefit, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program for self-employed and gig workers, that expires on December 31st. So come January 1st, millions of Americans will be without any benefits whatsoever. The good news is a vaccine is coming, but all experts say that it won't provide the greatest impact until summer 2021, which means people will still be unemployed. Some businesses will not come back. Millions of jobs, as of right now, the last estimate that I saw said 4 million jobs will not be returning after this pandemic is over. That is essential. 4 million jobs. 4 million. 4 million people will be out of work entirely because their job just went away. Whether the business closed or the business decided, such as like Facebook decided, we don't need all these employees at our Facebook headquarters. Let's send you home. You can work from home. We'll pay you less and we'll actually make more money. You will still get the job done and everything is great. Well, that's what a lot of businesses are doing. So it is because of this that providing these people that are still looking for work with some funding is essential to keep the working class from falling further behind the middle and upper class Americans. That's essential. We cannot have a huge gap in between the lower class, middle class, and upper class. That is tearing Americans apart. That is hurting our entire economy. Now, I know what many of you are going to say, so I just want to address this right now. A lot of you are going to ask, what about all of us on Social Security? Do we get anything? Yes, you do if there is a second stimulus check. I also referenced this earlier today and also yesterday as well, that many people are trying to figure out, change the verbiage on a lot of these different policies, a lot of these different pieces of legislation, because it leaves out elderly, people on Social Security. It leaves you guys out. So because of that, changing from rental assistance to housing assistance can change it all. Adding additional benefit like Joe Biden wants to do, $200 per month for people on Social Security, an additional $200 per month on top of their Social Security check. That would be great. Let's see about moving forward with that plan. Also, what if you're single and don't have dependents? $1,200 is not enough. What I can tell you is this is all they're trying to do. They're just trying to provide a little bit of a bridge, or bridge the gap between now and when we have a vaccine. The government, and especially Congress, is not trying at all to provide more funding and more money to people that are either lower or middle class, because they don't feel like it's their job to provide any money, any income for people. It's on the Americans, it's on them, it's on your shoulders to provide for yourself or your family. So even though $1,200 is not enough, at this point it doesn't seem likely it will be any higher, but that all changes if Democrats win the 2 seats in Georgia, the 2 Senate seats. And again, we won't know that until January 5th. So that's something we need to look for. Also, what if you used up all of your unemployment benefits? Will we see more weeks added? The answer to this question is most likely yes. Most likely, yes, you will see additional weeks added. Right now, you have a 39 weeks maximum that you can receive. As of right now, if you do run out of those 39 weeks, it is likely it will be extended. But again, that will be on Congress. So I don't know at this point. What I can tell you, Congress at this point doesn't seem to be worried about addressing every single issue that Americans are facing. They just don't. They are more focused on their own agendas and getting relief to those that they think need it more. The problem is, right now, the need that Congress is talking about is not actually based on actual needs. It's based on who would help that party more. That's currently what the need is based on. Not based on, we are seeing lower class Americans struggling the most. Let's give them a $2,000 stimulus check. Oh, and if you made over $50,000 last year, you only get a $1,200 stimulus check. Oh, you made over $100,000, you don't get anything. That would be how you really address the needs the most. But no, they're saying, everybody that made less than $99,000 will get some form of a stimulus check. Cool. Up to $1,200. All right, great. Well, right now, the problem is it's going to continue. Congress does not care. That yes, they act like they care. They try to do their job. They're very sympathetic when you want to talk to them. When you call their office, they will not answer. I guarantee you that. Doesn't matter if you call on a holiday, before a holiday, on a weekend, during a weekday, when they're probably sitting at their desk. They won't answer. They will never get back to you. I know that from experience. So this is the reason why Congress is such a disgrace to the American people at this point. Millions are suffering, and they only seem to care about themselves and a fraction of the population. I personally can't stand it. I don't know about you, but that's just where I am. What we know based on our reports out recently is that the White House is open to a stimulus deal, and President Trump will sign the bill. This is exactly what we've heard from the White House, that he will sign the bill. But the stimulus bill should be under $600 billion. That's where it needs to be. Some people have said under $2 trillion. Yes, 600 billion is essentially under $2 trillion. President Trump is trying to make it where it's not so difficult on the 2 Republican senators running for their seats in Georgia. And so because of this, the White House, Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy, all these leaders have to be very, very critical on what they say in order to avoid Democrats winning both seats. As of right now, it's actually looking like it's going to be a very close election. So we will see come January 5th. Now, the White House also stated there must be stimulus checks and PPP funding. Those 2 things have to be in the next stimulus package if you want President Trump to sign it. If you don't care, or if Joe Biden is in office, then things could be completely different. But as of right now, we have a Democrat House, we have a Republican Senate, and we have a Republican president. So I'm just speaking as of right now on Thanksgiving Day 2020. This is what we know. And in order to get this done, it must be done before 2021. If this happens and let's say Nancy Pelosi comes to President Trump and says, all right, let's get a deal done. It's January 8th. He's probably going to say, no. You can wait until Joe Biden takes office. Because they're saying right now it has to be done before January 1st. It needs to be done in December if you want President Trump to sign this bill. This is really good news. Because as of right now, what we know will be expiring come January 1st. We have the emergency unemployment relief. We have the eviction moratorium through the CDC, 2020 rebate checks, student loan forbearance, small business debt relief, paid sick leave tax credit, payroll tax deferral, and also 33 various tax provisions. All this expires on December 31st. January 1st, to me, is normally a very, very good day. I love setting a New Year's resolution, my New Year's goals. I do this every single year. Sometimes I talk about here on the channel as well, the new goals I'm setting, the goals that I've actually accomplished in the past year, and I go through it in detail. But this year, January 1st is going to be a very big day for many Americans. And I can tell you right now that this is one New Year's Day I am personally not looking forward to, based on the current situation that we are in. So, that is what we know right now regarding stimulus and where the White House stands. As always, as I know more, I promise I will share more. I just want to thank you guys for continuing to support me here on this channel, for watching videos, asking questions, letting me know how I can help. Again, you're very appreciated. So, my hope is that you have a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend, a great Black Friday. Hopefully, if you have some money and you can go and purchase some gifts, great. If you can purchase some things that you absolutely need, awesome. But if not, again, my goal here is to keep you updated on what's going on, and hopefully Congress will act quick enough and provide some type of stimulus relief to give you and your family some actual help. So again, thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, please ask them down in the comment section below. Hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you guys on the next one.